London, one of the world's super cities. Once the centre of the British Empire controlling a quarter of the earth, today it's the centre of excitement. London is traditional, yet multicultural with people from all walks of life. London is modern, yet its historic heritage goes back thousands of years. Its monarchy and ceremonial traditions that define its culture are a magnet to travellers. Join us as we discover the must-see treasures of London. Welcome to London, capital of the United Kingdom, a city full of history and tradition, balanced with the excitement of a modern metropolis. Come with us as we explore the must-see sights of one of the most famous cities in the world. We'll discover great monuments like the Houses of Parliament, St Paul's Cathedral, and Westminster Abbey. Traditional architecture contrasted with modern icons like the Gherkin and the Shard. Discover the theatre district in the West End, London's answer to Broadway. Shop at internationally famous stores. We'll get super close to royalty with traditions on a scale rarely seen by travellers anywhere else. Find out about getting around London, and we'll show you some hidden secrets most travellers overlook, but the locals know about. And discover just how colourful London is with its diversity. So sit back and enjoy the tour as we take you to some of the best places. This is London. Put simply, London is easy to get around. Many of the residents here don't even have a driver's license. They don't need to. The roads are often congested anyway, and public transport is super efficient. The city is famous for its black cabs and red double-decker buses, including the open-top hop-on, hop-off tourist buses. This service is, of course, in many parts of the world. If you're visiting for the first time, it's a great way to see the major sites, complete with commentary. You can hop off at the many stops to take a closer look at attractions, and hop on again when another bus comes along, all for the price of one ticket. The London Underground is the city's rail network. Locals call it the Tube. It's a labyrinth of subterranean tunnels and tracks that reach every part of the city. More than 160 years old, it was opened in 1863. During World War II, it served as a shelter where residents would take refuge during the bombings, supporting each other while sharing cups of tea to keep their spirits up. It's fairly easy to figure out how to get from one place to another, and there's always attendants on hand to help. Due to its efficiency, it's one of the best ways of getting around. Here's a tip. You can pay for your tickets at a ticket machine, but scanning your credit card or phone using Apple Pay as you enter and exit through the turnstiles is not only faster and more convenient, it's also cheaper. Trafalgar Square is named after Lord Horatio Nelson's naval victory over Napoleon's French fleet at the Battle of Trafalgar. Its centerpiece is a column with a statue of Nelson standing on top, looking out across the city. The base of the column is flanked by 4 bronze lions. Local authorities are always telling visitors to get off these lions. Travelers can't resist getting photos of themselves with these British mascots. The square is the city's popular meeting point, and a lot of outdoor events are held here. Its lovely fountains and statues fall under the shadow of the National Gallery. The National Gallery is home to famously beautiful works of art, like Sunflowers by Vincent van Gogh, Water Lily Pond by Monet, The Umbrellas by Renoir, and famous paintings of the English countryside by Constable. Behind the National Gallery is the 13th century Covent Garden, known for its markets, little cafes and buskers. The buskers are a great attraction for travellers. And Eliza Doolittle, played by Audrey Hepburn, sang "Wouldn't It Be Lovely" while selling flowers here in the movie musical My Fair Lady. But getting back to Trafalgar Square, Nelson's column faces the entrance to perhaps one of London's most famous streets, the Mall. The Mall is a 1 kilometre straight road which is less than a mile. It takes you past St James's Park and towards one of the UK's great drawcards for travellers, Buckingham Palace, royal residence of the King, and where visiting dignitaries are received with honour. Locals call it Buck House. Queen Victoria's marble statue sits below the Golden Angel of Victory, greeting all who come to the gates of the palace. And 4 times a week, travellers pack the area around the gates in which locals call the Scrum. They come to see a ceremony unique to London, the changing of the guard. While ritualistic guard changes happen in other countries, there are none that compare to the grandeur and scale of this. It's an event. The guards are professional soldiers in their parade dress. During the ceremony, the new guard marches from their barracks to relieve the old guard from their shift. The tradition is full of pomp and pageantry, with marching bands and some pretty seriously armed soldiers. They may look ceremonial, but don't mess with these guys. If you don't get out of the way, they'll walk right over the top of you. So enjoy the show, but be respectful of the King's Guard, manage your kids, and avoid getting trodden on. Here's a fun fact. The huge bearskin hats the guards wear originated when the British defeated Napoleon's French army in 1815 at Waterloo. The elite French Imperial Guard wore similar hats at the battle, so the hats these British guards wear today represent war trophies. They wear them to stick it to the French. Even though the two nations are allies today, there's still some light-hearted rivalry. While all of this is going on, near the Trafalgar Square end of the Mall is Horse Guards Parade, where you can see the changing of, you guessed it, the Royal Horse Guards. This is made up of 2 regiments, the Household Cavalry and the Blues and Royals, both proudly dressed with their plumes atop gleaming helmets and breastplates. Today, the Household Cavalry relieves the Blues and Royals, who look quite the picture of tradition, only in Britain. The splendidly attired Horse Guards are sometimes relieved by the Royal Artillery Light Cavalry Regiment, seen here. Not far from Horse Guards Parade, we go past the gated and heavily guarded number 10 Downing Street, home of the Prime Minister. And just a few blocks further brings us to Westminster Abbey, famous for coronations of kings and queens. Royal weddings have taken place within this UNESCO World Heritage Site too, like the marriage of Prince William and Kate Middleton. Inside, you can see the tombs of important historical giants. Scientists like Stephen Hawking, Charles Darwin, and Sir Isaac Newton. This is Sir Isaac's tomb. Great contributors to English literature like Lord Byron, Rudyard Kipling, and Charles Dickens. And royal figures that made such an impact on history, movies were made about them, like Henry V, Queen Elizabeth I, and her rival Mary, Queen of Scots, and the tomb of the unknown soldier. The beautiful Gothic cathedral has visitors looking down to see where historical celebrities are entombed, and looking up to marvel at the artistry of its design. Standing by the River Thames, just a 7-minute walk from Westminster Abbey, are the Houses of Parliament. The Gothic centre of government is a major landmark on the River Thames. Perhaps the most conspicuous part of the architecture is the clock tower called the Elizabeth Tower. It houses the Great Bell nicknamed Big Ben. The clock has kept perfect time since 1859 and is still wound by hand up to 3 times a week, with a process that takes around 1.5 hours. And it still works. Big Ben faithfully chimes every hour till this day. Statues of famous kings and prime ministers stand outside, like Richard the Lionheart, Oliver Cromwell, David Lloyd George, and Sir Winston Churchill. Right next door is Westminster Bridge, where the statue of the warrior queen, Boudica, still challenges the ancient legions of Rome who once occupied Britain. From the base of her statue, we can see the London Eye. The London Eye was formally opened on December the 31st, 1999, the eve of the new millennium. The 120-metre or 394-foot diameter wheel has 32 massive pods, one for each of the boroughs making up the city. Each can hold up to 25 people who enjoy a 30-minute ride as the wheel rotates at a comfortable 10 inches per second, going once around. From here, travellers can appreciate amazing vistas of London from a very different angle to what they see at ground level. The River Thames winds its way through London, and if you want to enjoy walks by its banks, you can take a 1.7-mile stroll to the Shard. You'll find most of the path is by the river. Just use your Apple or Google Maps to guide you. Or you can cruise the Thames on an Uber boat, which is a river bus with multiple stops to get on and off. In stark contrast to London's historic buildings, the Shard is a 310-metre or 1,017-foot high glass pyramid that pierces the sky like a needle. Inaugurated in 2012, it's the tallest building in the UK with the highest open viewing deck. Those elevated vistas from the London Eye are intimate and close up compared to the sky view from the Shard's top deck. You can enjoy a glass of champagne from here as you marvel at the panorama from atop this audacious architectural statement. And the restaurants and bars up here offer wonderful views of the city at night. By day, you can identify many of the other landmarks below, including St Paul's Cathedral and other modern buildings with bold designs that have changed London's skyline. Although the famous Gherkin is now hidden behind newer high-rises, it was controversial at the time, but has since found its way into Londoners' hearts. But the so-called walkie-talkie is very visible from here. You can also spot the Tower of London and the Tower Bridge from here. The boulevard to the Tower Bridge from the Shard is wide and spacious. Lots of people enjoy a day out with friends and family around these parts. And you can see sculptures here and there to add a bit of fun, like these quirky bronze apes. As you wander here, you can't help but notice the imposing HMS Belfast, a naval cruiser that saw active service in World War II. Including the Normandy landings, and as part of the Pacific Fleet towards the end of the war. Today, it's a museum. Looking across the river, you can see the Tower of London. To get there, just stroll across the Tower Bridge. In 1968, a wealthy American bought London Bridge for nearly $2.5 million. he transported it to Arizona piece by piece where it was reassembled. But there was a problem with this. He thought he was buying this, the Tower Bridge. It certainly pays to do your research. The Gothic structure is an icon on the River Thames and is a fully operational drawbridge to allow taller vessels to pass. And its history is not without its share of great stories. In 1952, a double-decker bus driver drove over the drawbridge as it began to raise due to a failure in the warning system. By the time he realized what was happening, he made a snap decision to accelerate, sending the bus airborne, jumping the 1.8 meter or 6-foot gap that appeared in front of him with 20 passengers on board. He was rewarded with £10 and a day off work for his quick thinking. The Tower of London is full of history and definitely worth a visit. Built by William the Conqueror in the 1070s, it was a symbol of Norman power after their victory over the English at the Battle of Hastings in 1066. Prisoners of historical significance were brought here and executed, like Anne Boleyn, Sir Thomas More, and Lady Jane. All are buried here. Many were transported here on the River Thames and brought through this gate, called the Traitors' Gate. The tower is guarded by the Beefeaters. It's thought they got their name because they were royal bodyguards and allowed to share beef at the king's table. Although today's Beefeaters have served at least 22 years in the British Armed Forces, their role today is more ceremonial. And as tour guides, they're well versed in entertaining their visitors while explaining the history of the tower.
During my military career, I've seen active service involved in police support and counter-terrorism operations in Northern Ireland, peacekeeping, peace enforcement, operations in the former Republic of Yugoslavia, war fighting in Iraq, and counter-insurgency operations in Afghanistan. But apparently, taking a guided tour in the rain is classed as too dangerous. So, as a result of that, we are going to head inside the chapel, because heaven forbid I should get a little bit wet doing my job.
The tower houses the crown jewels worth an estimated $4 billion US. I wonder if they have insurance. There's also an impressive display of arms and armour, including the suit of armour belonging to King Henry VIII. You might notice the codpiece is pretty big. There were a number of reasons for this, but eventually it became a symbol of masculinity. Some say it was used for storage, including fruit for lunch. Outside, you'll notice the permanent residents, the ravens. It's said that if they fly away, the kingdom would fall, so this is prevented by clipping their wings. So, if you or your kids like castles, close-up views of the royal guards, armories, jewellery more expensive than Tiffany's, great legends, and tour guides in fancy dress, the Tower of London has it all. Rainy days can happen in London, even in the summer. If you get one, there's plenty of indoor attractions. In addition to the National Gallery and Westminster Abbey, there's also St Paul's Cathedral. With its conspicuous dome dominating the London skyline for over 300 years, St Paul's Cathedral is just a mile away from the Tower of London. The Baroque structure was designed by Christopher Wren and completed in 1710. It's no coincidence that the grand edifice reminds you of St. Peter's in Rome. Wren was inspired by St. Peter's and wanted to replicate the look, with a few of his own ideas added. Noteworthy events like Sir Winston Churchill's funeral and Charles and Diana's wedding were held here. Important generals are laid to rest here, including Gordon of Khartoum, and the Duke of Wellington, who defeated Napoleon at Waterloo. When you climb the magnificent dome, you'll discover if you whisper on one side up there, people can hear you on the other side. This is the view from outside the dome's base. And from what is known as the lantern, we're treated to this view. Just 1.5 miles away from St. Paul's is the British Museum. This is the traditional facade at the entrance. And this is the modern design at the centre of the building called the Grand Court. It's the largest covered public square in Europe. The museum houses world-famous collections, some of which are highly controversial, like the Greek Parthenon sculptures. The Greek government has been asking for their return for years, saying they were illegally removed, while the museum maintains they were legally obtained with Ottoman permission. While the two sides disagree, one thing is for certain: the exhibits are magnificent. And you'll be in awe of the Egyptian section too, with collections even thousands of years older. The Rosetta Stone draws crowds. The writing chiseled on it in 196 BC is the reason we can read Egyptian hieroglyphs today, because the text is written in hieroglyphic and translated into 2 other languages. So when you watch those Indiana Jones or Mummy movies, it was because of this stone they were able to read the ancient symbols of the Egyptians. And speaking of mummies, the mummy collection is one of the most popular exhibits here. From this naturally mummified man 5,500 years old, to these traditional mummies and their sarcophagi, fascinating to both adults and kids alike. Although London has around 9 million people and attracts 30 million visitors a year, it does have beautiful parks which offer space. Charles Dickens likened the parks to the city's lungs so it can breathe. Earlier, we walked past St. James's Park between the Mall and Buckingham Palace, a beautiful green space with formal gardens, ponds and some cute wildlife. Then there's Green Park, with Buckingham Palace on one end and the Ritz Hotel on the other. It features the conspicuous Wellington Arch. But not far from here, Hyde Park is the larger of the green spaces in London. 142 hectares, that's 350 acres, where you can chill from the bustling city. With the statue of Achilles at one end, and the large lake at its centre called the Serpentine, this is London's version of New York's Central Park. Near the Knightsbridge end of Hyde Park is the Albert Memorial. Prince Albert was Queen Victoria's husband and became Prince Consort of the United Kingdom. The Golden Memorial looks across to Albert Hall, a venue for concerts and shows of some very famous people. If you've performed at Albert Hall, you've had your rite of passage to fame. But speaking of Knightsbridge, one of the world's most iconic department stores is located here, the famous Harrods. Here you can buy anything from clothes to housewares to very fancy food and confectionery. The Egyptian escalators seen here are an attraction unto themselves. And then there's Selfridges on Oxford Street, so famous they made an entire TV drama about Mr. Selfridge himself. Connected to Oxford Street is Regent Street, with its elegant post-Edwardian facades and high-end shops. And connected to Regent Street is Piccadilly Circus, a popular hangout for locals and travellers alike. Some liken this to New York's Times Square. London's culture is diverse. Everywhere you go, you'll see people from all walks of life, all brought together to make the city as colourful as it is traditional. From its punk history, to sexuality, to its ethnic melting pot, It's a society of variety. Even the much-loved children's character Paddington Bear said, "In London, everyone is different, and that means anyone can fit in." And as for the food, ethnic diversity is one culinary delight after another. The traditional English pub serves steak and ale pies with beer. Londoners love their Indian curries. And the city's Chinatown, just behind Regent Street, is one of the best in the world. If you like black bean, ginger and garlic steak, or steamed dumplings, you'll find yourself in gastronomic heaven here. There are loads of not-so-obvious gems that many travellers don't know about, but the locals do. Down the hill on the south side of London Bridge is the bustling Borough Market. It's full of a variety of foods and eateries where you can sit down to dine. The colours, aromas and interesting variety are mouth-watering, from fancy cheeses to cured meats, the freshest produce, and gourmet meals you can take home or have on the go. And if you want some quiet time after touring around, the River Thames has lots of little gardens, like the Victoria Embankment Gardens near Horse Guards Parade. And there are a lot of delightful side streets off the main roads like St Martin's Lane, just behind Trafalgar Square, offering a more intimate way to window shop, stop at a pub, or go to a theatre to see a play. And speaking of the theatre, the West End Theatre District is a great way to experience London by night. Like New York's Broadway, the West End offers a great night out with shows, musicals, drama and comedy. And afterwards, a stroll by the Thames is the perfect way to see London lit up. As the monuments reflect in the water, you can reflect on the amazing experience the super city has to offer. Reflect also on how London is used by many travellers as the jumping point to explore Europe. Check out our other travel guides on fabulous European countries, cities and villages. But for now, it's London that's the star of the show. In the words of Samuel Johnson, "When a man is tired of London, he is tired of life, for there is in London all that life can afford."